Art One-on-One with Mr. Burger.
So I was looking for art for our kitchen wall, which is actually behind us. As odd as it is. And Edward Hoppers, who came to mind before. But I cannot find... There's like 3 pieces of art that I wanted to get put like as a collage on the wall. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You remember the names of the pieces?
No. I remember Edward Hopper. But
you don't remember the names of the pieces?
No.
Wonderful. Is there any other artists you think I would like their pieces up in my kitchen? Our kitchen?
Julia Child?
My kitchen, really? Because you're never in it? Julia Child.
No, I can't think of anything. Let me do some research. I'll get back to you. There's one guy who, I can't think of his name. He does like these still lives with fruits and vegetables, but then they look like people's faces.
Yeah, that's what I want in my kitchen.
They're really interesting.
If we had your choice of artwork up in our house, it would be a mixture of artwork that is fruits that look like people, monkeys flying in outer space. You got a couple at the Des Moines Art Festival or whatever. Oh, well, did we get one from we didn't get one from the Light People.
Not from the Light People.
Which is one that I would have wanted, but you bought some random
Flash Knights
monkey living in an astronaut suit and something else that I have no idea where you'll ever put.
Put them in my studio.
Yeah, okay, when we're rich and famous. Rich and famous from Art One-on-One, which is what we are actually here for today. I am your pod boss, Nicole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator who is well lit up today, Mr. Burger.
Yeah. I'm here.
You're here, and...
You're raring to go.
Yeah, I can tell. You are lit up. I think the first thing we'll do today is focus on the segment called Through the Art Lens.
Through the Art Lens. This is the subject, the topic, the segment where... we go through the art lens and look a little bit at something that's upcoming or on the calendar or whatever, and relevant to,
So what would you like to bring up today?
The upcoming week. Well, through the art lens, let's see here. I just have some notes written down for the art lens because, as you know, this podcast comes out on February the 9th, the release date, whatever. And so Grant Wood was born on this week, February the 13th, 1891, and he passed away on February the 12th, the day before his birthday, 1942.
It's his birthday month, too.
It is. What do you mean his birthday month, too?
I just feel if it's your birthday month, you should get to celebrate all month.
The birthday month is such a... Oh, my gosh. You're like a millennial. You need a whole month to celebrate your birthday?
No, I just think I deserve a whole month to celebrate my birthday.
You're out your mind.
I don't think so. I think you should celebrate me every day starting...
starting now.
Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit more with Grant Wood.
Well, anyway, so to celebrate his birth month, I guess, Grant Wood, one of the great artists of American history, an American regionalist from Iowa. Just we've been to his studio.
Yeah.
We've been to some of the places where he has created some of his most iconic works, and
we have these great aspirations to go places for artists, and we've made it as far as Cedar Rapids and Stone City.
That is I think you sell what I do, what we do, what the podcast does,
Yeah.
real short.
Where have we been besides
Besides Chicago, besides
not
Kansas
the
City,
museums? Not museums.
besides like the biggest,
Okay, not museums.
Okay.
I'm talking about like the actual like his his studio or the community that he taught through, or not just an art museum. And that is the only place we've been, I believe.
In terms of something like that, I think you're probably right.
I know I'm right.
But that's not the only place. I mean, that's not the only place I've been. That's not the only place you've been. That's not the only place the podcast has been. I mean, I've gone and taken this podcast and this content on the road all over the United States.
I am not talking what you have done without me. I'm saying the together thing.
That, you can either poop or get off the pot, as they say, lady.
I think they say shit or get off the pot.
Well, then get to work. Let's get going. Start planning the trip. Oh, wait.
So Grant Wood is famous for producing art about the Midwest, right? Specifically
Iowa.
And just Iowa, not even the Midwest.
I would say so.
And he left only to come back to Iowa, which I feel like he's probably one of the very few people that have done this. Am I correct? Art-wise?
No.
No?
No.
Name an artist that has left Iowa only to come back to Iowa.
Well, me.
Okay. A famous artist.
Me.
I'm famous. You are definitely not famous. You think you're famous.
I'm America's favorite art teacher.
Uh-huh. Okay, so a famous artist. Any famous artists that had roots in Iowa?
AI can confirm.
That's because you've been messing around with AI and creating so many pictures about yourself. Now you're all famous. Okay, so are you going to answer the question legitimately or not?
have. I've already answered the question.
So there is no other famous artist that had roots in Iowa, born and raised here, left, but chose to come back and...
It depends on what you would call famous. Isabel Bloom, she left and came back. Famous sculptor.
It's interesting.
Sorts.
So the business, my business, took the place of Isabel Bloom. You know that, right?
Yeah, self-promoter.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Golly.
I just think that's interesting.
Hello, I'm not here to toot my own horn, but tooty toot toot.
Yep, I'm all about toot my own horn.
I know you are. So get off your high horse.
So Isabel
lady.
Bloom, let's go.
There are lots of...
Oh, you say there are lots, but yeah, you've named one besides Grant Wood.
But you're also assuming that every artist is from Iowa, which is dumb.
Assuming that every artist is...
Like-
I'm just asking
like, I'm not
those
saying-
that were born in Iowa.
I'm not saying that every artist that has ever come... Most artists from Iowa aren't famous artists. Name another famous Iowa artist other than Grant Wood.
I don't.
You couldn't.
Okay, let's expand
And neither
it a
could
little
I.
bit. Let's expand it to the Midwest then. Is there any artist that you knew of
Yeah.
that was raised in the Midwest
Curry.
that chose to come back?
Curry, Benton. There's two. Two more. Curry from...
You acted like you were just going to rattle off like 15 in a row, and you're like, 2.
Well, that's off the top of my head. That's 2.
Okay. So they
I'm sure there are lots of them. I just don't know all of their names. I don't know all of their stories. I know that you want to believe and that I know all of this information about every single artist, but I mean,
no, I did not say that. I mean, I believe you know about a lot about art, but I'm just quizzing you, and you're just a grouch. Is the truth of the matter?
I feel like you're just being a little combative.
Okay. Sure I am. I think if you replay this back and your listeners will agree, you're the grouchy one.
They will. They'll see the facts.
Okay.
Facts.
So.
But there are many artists that grow up in the Midwest, that leave the Midwest, that come back to the Midwest, because generally speaking, I think people generally do that. they grow up thinking, I want something different. And you also have to the interesting thing of those artists that I mentioned is that they left when they had probably greater opportunities in a city. They probably would have done a lot better in Chicago or New York or Los Angeles or someplace of this sort, but chose to stay home, chose to stay close to their roots
Families.
and the families,
Yeah.
and made it work.
What is my Women of the Revolution or something like that? Is that what my favorite art piece of his is? Is that the correct title?
Yeah, that is the title.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but if you haven't visited in Cedar Rapids the Grant Wood Art Studio, that is pretty cool. We intend to have a podcast there down the road, and we have been given permission to do that. So we do plan on doing that. It's a cool place. And the story around how he changed that, it was a stable, right? A horse stable?
Mm.
Like a feeding, because they
Something like
had,
that.
and it was a loft. So it was like a horse stable, and there was a loft above, and he took that and turned that into his own.
Well, and again, I think you're getting the cart in front of the horse a little bit. I mean, we have talked to the people at the Grant Wood thing, but that's not a guarantee that we're going to be able to get in there and
Okay, we'll see.
do it.
I'm pretty sure I'm the one that was emailing back and forth.
I'm pretty sure you were.
Well, anyone else you would like to bring up for the art lens?
Well, the art lens was very focused on
Well, I just
Grant
didn't know if
Wood.
there's any other.
I mean, there are some others, but I think the Grant Wood piece is perfect.
Sufficient.
Yeah, and he's an artist that we've talked about off and on throughout the
Well, I
over
think
the
because
years.
he's somewhat local and you can relate to his art, and I think the fact, his art, I just don't think I don't love it, but you like it just because you relate to it, and the rural scenes and the people and the scenery. But if it weren't for me being from the Midwest, I don't know that I would appreciate his art or talk about him so much. Would you?
Yes,
Because?
because I like what he did. Think American Gothic is it's arguably the most recognized piece of American artwork ever. It's very influential. The parodies and the play of how he put that together. It was very transitional in American culture, going from American regionalism into something that was a little bit more like abstract. It was kind of on the one of the last great pieces before abstraction and things like that. Modern art really started to really take over, and so you can't pick up an art history book without. Grant Wood's American Gothic is on the cover of most of them.
Well, and
But-
that one specifically I agree with. Now, I don't love that one either, but the story behind it and whatnot, but I don't know. It's
And-
just my opinion.
And you're entitled to it,
Yeah.
even if it's wrong.
Speaking of being wrong, I think we should move on to the next series, which is called Brushstrokes or Bluffs.
Oh my gosh, this is where you try to stump me into knowing if there is a legitimate story or if it's a bluff.
And this is very hard to do, by the way.
It is hard to do.
There's so much crap on the internet that, obviously, you can go to valid. What's the word I'm looking for?
Reputable
Accredited
sites.
Sites, but goodness sakes, to find an actual one that I know is or is not a myth
Right.
is hard.
Yeah.
All right, so my statement that you can decide whether it is a brushstroke or bluff is Paul Gauguin left a successful job as a stockbroker in search of earthly paradises untouched by humanity.
Well, again, there are elements of truth in that. There are lots of elements of truth in that.
Okay, so dissect it.
Now, whether or not it's all true, I guess I can't say for sure. Because how would I know his intention? But what I can say that he did have a successful...
What do you mean, how do you know? Would you know his intention? Did he not write books? Did he not talk about it?
He did not write books. He was a painter.
Okay, but didn't he have, like... Didn't people interview him?
Perhaps. I don't know. I've never read it. Well, I've read some things, interviews, but not extensive interviews. I've read quotes of his, but not extensive quotes. Like, to know the inner workings of his brain and what he wanted to exactly do. I mean, that's a bit...
Presumptuous.
Presumptuous, correct. But I digress. I think that he had a very good career as a stockbroker. He had a wife and several children, and he finally got smart and left them. Went off on an art career.
See ya!
Let's see. Then he did go to various islands and things like that. Now, whether or not he was in search of a land that was completely untouched by humans, I don't know. But I know that he was in Tahiti. I know he was in the, various islands and island chains and things like that. He lived in a very impoverished sort of way. I would say that that's the statement is more true than untrue.
You can never commit to anything. Just like you can never commit to loving a certain piece of art or choosing your favorite color, or you can't. Is it a brushstroke or is it a bluff? I mean, that's the question.
I think it's mostly.
No, there's no mostly. It's not. Is it mostly a brushstroke or a bluff?
Yeah.
It is brushstroke or bluff.
It is mostly a brushstroke. It is mostly a brushstroke.
It is a brushstroke. In my research, not to say that can't be overturned, but
right. So what did you discover in terms of him wanting to find uninhabited,
It was just really untouched. Like, he wanted to find places that were touched as little as possible. It was not like that seemed to be his goal, and that wasn't the only thing, but that was what he that was what he set out to do.
Yeah.
And I think obviously, that really dives into the art talk, because the art talk is about him as well, or mentions that time that he devoted to Tahiti and his paintings and inspiration from that. So I don't know much about Paul Gauguin. He sounds like a chump.
He was not a very nice person. He was not a very nice person. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of trends toward attempting to cancel him in the art world, just because of the, unethical, immoral, womanizing behavior, all of these things that he did that were just not, they're just not of the expectation of how people behave in our world. But I also believe that it's really, really hard to paint with a broad stroke and say, everybody should have lived the way we live today. That's a little bit...
Well, and if truth be told, how many people would be canceled, as you just said, for the things that you're talking about? Because there was a lot of sexual...
Everybody. Pretty much everybody. There's lots and lots and lots of humans that have made lots of mistakes. I don't think we need to go down the rabbit hole of calling out every historical figure for their flaws.
Well, I'm just saying, I think it's interesting that he was almost written off because of that.
But
But mostly because
it's
was so
kind of
much of
ongoing. But
Like nowadays,
yep, that's when this. Yep.
the art talk card revolves around Pope Paul Gauguin. It says, at the age of 35, Paul Gauguin left his successful job as a stockbroker to devote himself to painting. In 1891, he went to Tahiti in search of a simpler life. This unspoiled island in the South Pacific inspired Gauguin to produce bolder, more colorful works. Where would you go if you could choose one location to spark your creativity?
Like the famous artist aforementioned, I choose to live in Iowa because all of the great ideas I've ever had came to me while milking a cow. Grant Wood said that. So if I had to live, and the thing is, in the art world today, you don't have to live in a big city. You don't have to live in a certain situation or whatever. You don't have to have access to all of that stuff.
Well, you have access to all of it right in your home.
Right. And because of the internet and because of all of these things, I mean, you can have meetings, you can network, you can market, you can do all of those things from literally anywhere. And if you have a good marketing campaign, if you have good networking with individuals and people, and you kind of have an idea of what you're doing, and you have a good team around you, you can basically do art stuff from anywhere. And especially in the world today, there's the beauty of being able to be isolated and introverted and on your own and in a sleepy little town where nobody knows what you're doing. And
well, until you're famous.
Well, even at that, like there are some famous artists that stayed fairly low key in their small towns.
In today's world, or in the world of Paul Gauguin? That doesn't really
across the board.
Much.
I mean, Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell lived in a little, like these little New England towns, and he was married 3 times to 3 different school teachers.
Wonderful.
And he just stayed.
But again, when was he alive?
You know, in the 50s.
I mean, today,
60s.
If he was famous like that, he wouldn't have had that, been able to be secluded like he was, I don't think.
Sure. I mean, Norman Rockwell's back in the day. I mean, even today he's relatively famous. And back when he was like in his older age, he was pretty famous. Like, people knew who he was. Like, he was a recognizable figure.
And they left him alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's like Ellerby, North Carolina. Ellerby, North Carolina, as you know, is a tiny little town. And there's this guy who was driving through, and he's like, you know, I want to buy a house and live in this little town, and it's a cute little community. And so he buys a house, and he lives there the rest of his life.
And who is it?
Well, you might know him as the 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant.
Yes. Okay.
But he again, world famous guy, lived in a tiny little town. People left him alone.
But I don't think they would in today's world. That's what I'm saying, because everybody has access to know where he is, so they'd be driving past and whatnot with.
Well,
I just think it's different.
yeah, but
today.
you got pissed off Andre the Giant. You know, are you going to really drive by his house and peep through his windows? You might get one in the face.
Possibly.
Take it the hard way.
I really am going to bring you back in here because you have not answered the question. Where would you go if you could choose one location to spark your creativity?
If I had to be in one place in the United States, it would be in Iowa with you. Anywhere with you, my sweetheart.
Artistically, that's where you would choose to be here? That's where you think you would get your most inspiration? You don't think
I'm
of
inspired.
you loving pop art, like being in a place where that was...
The thing is, like, you can be inspired by pop art because pop culture is everywhere where culture is. And so it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like what I've already said. I mean, you can kind of be anywhere and do it. You don't have to be in a special spot.
I do understand what you're saying, but I'm asking you to choose one. So you're choosing Iowa, that you would be the most inspired, that would spark your creativity the most.
No, maybe not spark my creativity the most, but that's where I'm at, so that's where I'll make my art.
Okay, we'll play the game, Mr. Berger. Play the game, Mr. Berger.
If I had to leave the country, I'd probably move to a couple places. There are a couple places on my list of where I would leave. Number one on my list, Salzburg, Austria.
Okay.
I visited Salzburg, Austria. The food is great. The people are friendly. They mostly speak a lot of English. It's a beautiful landscape. I'm inspired by drawing people and interesting things, and there's lots of people and interesting things there.
Okay.
And the pretzels.
Oh gosh, you and Drake.
The pretzels are just great. But I'm willing to give Ireland a try. I'm willing to give Iceland a try. I've kind of been thinking a lot about Ireland and Iceland lately, so we'll see about those.
I feel like I've already lived a life in Ireland.
But I've also visited Copenhagen. Was a great place to be. I really enjoyed that. I don't mind Paris. I probably want to be maybe out in the country a little bit more, but I don't mind France. Germany's very pretty. Italy's very nice, culturally and things like that. I mean, I think everywhere, there's pros and cons.
You can find beauty in anything, but just...
But anyway, I think that there are lots of beautiful places that I've had the opportunity to go. I mean, it's like, and some of it's like the food, like, there's nothing like eating mango right off the super fresh in Costa Rica. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like, it's like eating fresh Iowa sweet corn. You have to be here to experience it, to really appreciate it and be like, oh my gosh, like this is fantastic. When it comes in a can or it's processed or trucked, it's different.
Right.
Anyway, so there are lots of places that I would pick, whatever, but
I'm good with doing a food tour instead of an art tour if you want to do that.
Well, we just don't have a food podcast that makes that relevant.
Well, we could make that happen. You could make that happen. Art one-on-one and...
Food one-on-one.
It would be 101 because neither one of us are very... I mean, I can eat good food for sure, but to make... good food is a whole different ballgame. I have been trying new things lately and cooking.
Well, food's, it's nice to go to a restaurant and have nice meals and things like that is very, I'm all for that.
Yeah, it's easy.
But I do think that there are all kinds of places in the world where one could go, and the other thing is I could. If I have a home, if I have a place, if I've got a little corner where I've got my pencils and my stuff and my supplies, I can make it happen.
So you retire. I retire.
We retire.
We get one of those Trivago vans and we travel.
Trivago?
Yeah, it's like it's like the vans, but they're now turning into campers. So you have like
Oh.
everything you need in these vehicles, and you can take them out. And some of them are solar, ran, whatnot.
Right. I
Top
got you.
top 5 places we're gonna go to for art inspiration or art
For art-
history. Which do you want to do? Art history or art inspiration?
You tell me, what do you play
Let's do art history because that's more your.
for art in the United States, or because you have to be able to drive there, otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Okay. So U.S.
In the United States, I'd probably would start in New York. I'd like to go to Jackson Pollock's house. I've never been to Jackson. I've never been to New York State. My artwork. I've been in art shows in New York, but I've never personally been there myself.
Okay.
So that would be stop number 1 for me, probably. I mean, there's lots of things in New York. I mean, I'd like to go like to the art museums in New York City and things like that. But we'll just stick with the art historical spots.
Okay. Thank you.
So Jackson Pollock's house would probably be number 1, starting over there. I wouldn't mind doing the podcast. Maybe I'm jumping around a little bit, but I wouldn't mind doing the podcast at the Grant Wood studio and museum. You know, just spending some time talking about him and all of that in his space, in his habitat. I wouldn't mind going down to Missouri and visiting the Thomas Hart Benton studio space. One that's on my bucket list, are we at number 4?
Yep. We're at number 4.
Is, and again, this is out of the United States, but drivable,
Okay.
Mexico City. I'd like to go to Frida Kahlo's house, the Blue House.
Yeah, I would like to go to that too.
And see the Blue House in Mexico City. I think that would be super cool. I would say maybe like the 5th one might be like, I don't know, like Georgia, like in the Southwest, Georgia O'Keeffe's studio, maybe. But again, I think it'd be cool to visit lots of these artist studios, like one of the Andy Warhol studios, or I don't know. Like I said, there's tons of artists, or the Jim Henson's Muppet workshop. Like, I'd love to see that. I'd love to, I'd like to go to Disneyland.
Yeah. Okay, you can do that one on your own.
I mean, there's lots of places that I'd like. I've been to Disneyland before, but I would like to go see like where things were made, or
Yeah, I think just to be in an artist's space. I mean, just being in the only one I've been in is Grant Wood's, and I don't know, just hearing their story and then the little tidbits, and then knowing you're in that space where that person had all of that creativity come through and why they chose that space. And that was just it was an experience that was far better than what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to go there and be bored out of my mind, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I was
Well, and there are lots of little things, and again, I think when you enter the space of an artist, it's different. It's almost impossible to do, but to try to vision yourself like Grant Wood was sitting in that little room, in that little space, in that little kitchen, in that little bathroom,
yeah.
in that little bathtub, sunken down in the thing, or whatever, just like,
Yeah.
the how did he work? How did he paint? How did he make it all work? How did he have his paint set up? How did he, a lot of these artists, I mean, obviously this is their job. This is what they wake up, they start painting, they start working. Exactly what did that look like back in that time?
Right.
To me, that's fascinating. And I've been to a few art studios and things like that, but yeah, I think to me it's just like I would love to visit.
Yeah. Frida Kahlo's. That's the one I would choose out of your top 5.
Yeah, Frida's would be. I mean, Frida's would be cool. Jackson Pollock's, I think, would be cool.
Yeah. That would be cool. I don't know about New York.
Well, his studio isn't in New York. I mean, it's in New York State, but not in the city.
Busy city.
No, it's out in the It's out on the coast.
Well,
so yeah,
we got some goals now.
Yeah, and I think that who knows? Maybe that list is. I mean, it's kind of all over the map, quite literally.
Any other cool places that people want to any other cool places that people can throw out there that they've been to, that they would recommend, that we didn't think of or talk about? I would love to hear that. I mean, eventually we're going to go on the road and do stuff like that, but
I've always wanted to just do a trip of all like New England and hit every single state, hit all those states on the east coast of the United States. I've always thought that would be fun. But I think every state has their artists. Every state has their art colony or their art thing, art group. Here in Iowa, we've got like the Amana colonies, and we've got, Grant Wood, and we've got all of these different interesting little spots, the effigy mounds, and we've got there's old stuff, and there's modern stuff, and there's interesting stuff, and there's little groups and cliques and communities.
We went to that place in Iowa City that I never lived there for 18 years of my life and never knew it was there. Yeah. And had I known, I would have went there all of the time.
Yeah, but anyway, I think that those are experiences that could present themselves in every state, regardless of what state you're in. You're going to have access to things like that, and boy, there's a lot of really great places that I'm sure I don't even know about. Yeah. So yeah, people have suggestions on, hey, you got to hit this spot, or hey, don't forget about that. Because for every Grant Wood, there's a P. Buckley Moss. There's a small time artist. There's a Isabel Bloom, who's just like a local, regional, whatever that, sometimes they burst national, but
that makes me think of a segment we could do on just those, not so popular artists that should have been popular or something like that,
Good.
That'd be fun. Be better than these art talk cards. I'm not loving these art talk cards.
You don't?
No. I mean, that brought a good conversation, but mostly because I put us there. I think that's part of the work, though. I think highlighting some cool artists that never really came to light or became famous, I think that'd be a great segment. Well, we are going to wrap up our Midwestern-filled content of a podcast today, and well, I guess not. We ventured out into the United States at the end there.
Yeah, we got to Mexico.
Yes.
We talked a little bit Europe, but at any rate, yeah, thanks for watching, sharing, subscribing, doing all the things, clicking the button, and flipping the switch, honking the horn, beeping around, zipping it to your friends, doing the whole thing, making sure that everybody out there in the world gets access to the
wonderful art content,
which is Art One-on-One with the Pod Boss.
And America's favorite art teacher. Right here. Famous man sitting right next to me.
Sometimes.
I am such a lucky gal.
Sometimes.